hero stood shoulder to shoulder with Meek Mill.
I'm at a point in my life, like, we all grew up in the streets, and we try to be better, but they labeled us felons, sent us back to jail. I had to fight against that the whole time to gain my respect and be who I am today, and I'm proud of that.
Why are you doing bunny hops, Meek? Because you got your ass beat in tennis. You got your ass beat. Keep going. Count out loud.
That's the wrong time, nigga.
Count out loud.
30,
Huh?
4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40, 41, 42.
Keep going. Keep going.
Imagine the hidden world behind the glitz and glamour of the music industry, where parties for the rich and powerful aren't just about celebration. They're about control, secrets, and sometimes exploitation. This story follows two of hip-hop's biggest names, Nicki Minaj and Meek Mill. Their relationship was once the stuff of legends, a powerful couple rising together in an industry that demands everything. But after the breakup, the reality behind the fame started to surface. Nicki Minaj, known for her fearless persona, recently revealed shocking details about what she witnessed during her time close to the industry elite. Allegations of manipulation, hidden agendas, and dangerous parties are now coming to light. These events weren't just about music. They were tests of loyalty, endurance, and, at times, humiliation for those caught in the wrong circles. Now, whispers about Meek Mill's connections with powerful figures have resurfaced, and the internet is buzzing.
I see the narrative of a really good friend of mine like Meek, and people trying to, again, if he was gay, which there's not one gay bone in his body, who cares? Number one, let's say if people want to be gay, it is 2024. Who the cares? Okay. Number two, there's not a gay bone in his body. So, like, why do people want to lie about that? Why do people want to change the narrative of bet he made with me to try to hurt him?
While many dismiss these as rumors, the details are too vivid to ignore. What really happens when money, fame, and control intersect in ways the public never sees? This is a story about power, secrets, and survival in an industry that doesn't forgive mistakes. The world of music and fame is not always what it seems. Behind the flashing cameras, sold-out concerts, and red carpet events, there's a hidden side, a world of influence, secrets, and power struggles that most fans will never see. This story focuses on two of the biggest names in hip-hop, Nicki Minaj and Meek Mill. Once the industry's golden couple, their relationship was admired by millions. But fame, ambition, in the dark corners of the entertainment world revealed a side of their story that shocked even those closest to them. Nicki Minaj has always been known for speaking her truth. Fearless, bold, and unapologetic, she has faced industry pressures that most artists couldn't even imagine. Over the years, she has hinted at experiences that go far beyond the typical challenges of fame. Allegations of manipulation, hidden agendas, and events designed to humiliate or control artists have followed her accounts. Now the focus has turned to her ex, Meek Mill, who was not only rising as a major star in his own right, but also found himself entangled in situations he never publicly spoke about. Their relationship began in 2015. For almost 2 years, they were inseparable, their chemistry undeniable. Fans believed they were destined to be hip-hop's power couple. Meek Mill's popularity was soaring, and Nicki was already a household name with her bold persona and chart-topping hits. Together, they were unstoppable, both in the studio and on the public stage. But as the story unfolded, cracks appeared. After their breakup, tensions ran high. Nicki revealed that during their time together, she witnessed a different side of Meek, an aggression toward women that didn't exist when dealing with men. His behavior began to shift, influenced by powerful people he interacted with in the industry. Rumors about private parties, unusual dynamics with wealthy individuals, and situations that went beyond the boundaries of friendship started circulating. Nicki spoke about these experiences openly, sharing that she had seen men in positions of influence put young artists in situations that were humiliating or even dangerous. One recurring theme she highlighted was the pressure on artists to compromise themselves to gain favor or maintain their status. While these revelations were shocking, she insisted she had proof of many incidents, including moments that most would dismiss as urban legend or gossip. Among these stories were events involving Meek Mill at exclusive parties. These were not ordinary gatherings. According to sources close to Nicki, these parties were meticulously organized by some of the industry's most powerful figures. The goal was not entertainment, it was control. Artists, especially young black men and women, were often tested, exposed, or manipulated in ways designed to ensure compliance and loyalty. It was a world where mistakes or refusal to participate could mean losing everything: money, influence, and even personal safety. Nicki's observations were chilling. She recounted parties that were extravagant beyond imagination. Multi-million-dollar mansions rented for a single night. Security so tight that guests were almost imprisoned, and rules so strict that even the smallest act of defiance had consequences. One source described the aftermath of a party for Meek Mill's birthday: a mansion that looked like a crime scene. Broken bottles, scattered personal items, signs of chaos, and traces of substances that suggested the night had spiraled out of control. These were not stories meant to entertain. They were warnings. Nicki emphasized that these experiences shaped the choices and behaviors of everyone involved, including Meek Mill. She suggested that some artists became accustomed to this world and willingly participated, knowing it was part of the cost of fame. Others, however, found themselves trapped, coerced into actions they would never have imagined. While these revelations focused on Meek Mill, Nicki also shared her perspective on how the industry as a whole treated women. She described situations where female artists were undermined, controlled, or even silenced, often while male artists were given leeway or rewarded for compromising behavior. Her own experiences with manipulation and betrayal within her team only reinforced her awareness of how treacherous the industry could be. One particularly shocking story involved a staff member on her team who allegedly tampered with her food. Nicki survived the incident, but realized the danger was not always obvious. Later, she discovered that the same individual had worked for other powerful figures, further highlighting the interconnected and secretive nature of the industry. For her, the lesson was clear. You cannot rely solely on trust, and protecting oneself often means standing alone. Nicki also revealed that her interactions with Meek Mill after their breakup were complicated by the influence of other people. Powerful men, according to her, encouraged behaviors in Meek that were aggressive toward women while rewarding him for loyalty or service. This created a complicated and sometimes toxic dynamic, one that was difficult to navigate even for someone as experienced and savvy as Nicki. The public, of course, only saw the surface. Social media posts, interviews, and music videos rarely capture the private realities of these interactions. But Nicki made it clear that there is a significant difference between what happens behind closed doors and what is portrayed in public. For instance, videos of Meek Mill at certain gatherings began circulating online, and fans speculated endlessly about his behavior. Nicki explained that these situations often had layers of context that the public could not see. The allegations, while sensational, are part of a broader conversation about fame, power, and survival in the music industry. Artists like Nicki and Meek operate in environments where influence and control are currency, and navigating these spaces requires strategy, awareness, and sometimes compromise. For Nicki, speaking out has been a way to reclaim agency, to expose what she sees as systemic issues, and to warn others about the dangers lurking behind the spotlight. While much of the media focuses on gossip, the underlying story is about human behavior under pressure. How does ambition interact with morality? How do personal choices clash with external pressures? For Meek Mill, his trajectory was influenced not only by his talent, but by the circumstances and people surrounding him. For Nicki Minaj, the lessons were clear. Knowledge is power, and survival often means staying vigilant, even in the midst of fame and luxury. The story also raises questions about loyalty, betrayal, and the hidden rules of the entertainment world. Nicki's account suggests that fame is rarely just about music. It's about navigating a complex ecosystem where wealth, influence, and personal relationships intersect in unpredictable ways. In this ecosystem, artists are constantly negotiating their identity, reputation, and personal safety. As the story unfolds, the public begins to see how these dynamics play out in real life. Social media amplifies every rumor, every video, and every accusation. What might have once been private now becomes a spectacle, scrutinized by millions. For Nicki, speaking her truth is an act of defiance, a way to challenge the narrative that powerful figures control every aspect of an artist's life. Sets the stage for a deeper exploration of these hidden worlds. It introduces the tension between public persona in private reality, the complex relationships between Nicki Minaj, Meek Mill, and industry elites, and the dangers lurking behind the scenes. It's a story about survival, power, and the high cost of fame in a world where control is currency, and every choice has consequences. As the story continues, it becomes clear that fame and fortune in the music industry come with a hidden price. Behind the flashing lights and sold-out arenas lies a world where loyalty, control, and survival dictate every move. Meek Mill, once seen as a rising star with limitless potential, became a central figure in a world that most fans will never fully understand. Nicki Minaj's revelations shed light on the pressures he faced, the decisions he made, and the environment he found himself in. According to her, some of the most influential figures in the industry introduced him to a lifestyle where power and wealth often came hand in hand with compromise. What the public saw, music releases, interviews, public appearances, was only a fraction of the reality. Behind closed doors, situations were more complicated, more dangerous, and sometimes morally ambiguous. One recurring theme in Nicki's accounts is the concept of loyalty through challenge. At some gatherings, young artists were put in situations that tested their willingness to comply with the expectations of influential figures. These were not just social events. They were carefully orchestrated environments where decisions had long-term consequences. Artists were judged not only by talent, but by their ability to navigate these high-pressure situations. Nicki described one particularly intense birthday event for Meek Mill. The mansion was rented for millions of dollars, filled with celebrities, industry insiders, and influential guests. What seemed like a night of celebration was, in reality, a carefully controlled environment designed to test boundaries. Security was strict, access was limited, and every action was monitored. Nicki explained that the aftermath often revealed the true nature of the attendees, the chaos left behind, the traces of substances, and the emotional toll it took on those involved. According to her, some of these experiences shaped Meek in ways that were not always visible to the public. The challenges he faced, the manipulation he endured, and the choices he made influenced his behavior, his interactions with others, and even the music he produced, or sometimes chose not to release. Nicki emphasized that understanding this context is key to understanding his trajectory as an artist. But these stories aren't just about Meek Mill. They are also about the broader culture of the industry, where power dynamics often dictate personal interactions. Nicki described observing how certain male artists were encouraged to adopt aggressive behavior toward women while being rewarded for their compliance with influential figures. This created an environment where boundaries were blurred and moral judgment often conflicted with the drive to succeed. Nicki also shared her perspective on resilience. She emphasized that surviving and thriving in this environment required more than talent. It required awareness, strategy, and sometimes difficult decisions. Her own experiences with betrayal, manipulation, and attempts to undermine her demonstrate the risks that even the most successful artists face. For her, speaking out was a way to reclaim agency, highlight systemic issues, and warn others about the dangers lurking behind the spotlight. The public, of course, only sees snippets of this reality. Viral videos, social media rumors, and music industry headlines provide a distorted view. For example, videos of Meek Mill at certain events circulated widely online, fueling speculation and gossip. Nicki explained that these moments, while visually striking, were only part of a much larger and more complex picture. Context, she argued, is everything. Another aspect Nicki highlighted was the interconnectedness of the industry. Staff members, event organizers, and insiders often move between powerful figures, creating networks that are difficult to trace. Alleged tampering, sabotage, or manipulation can ripple across multiple artists and events. Her own encounters with staff members who acted against her interests reinforce this understanding. The line between ally and threat can be very thin in these circles. Nicki's accounts also touch on the psychological toll of these experiences. Constant scrutiny, high expectations, and exposure to morally ambiguous situations can shape an artist's personality, decision-making, and public persona. Meek Mill's reported behavior, according to Nicki, reflected both the pressures of this environment and the coping mechanisms he adopted to navigate it. The narrative paints a picture of an industry where fame and power are closely tied to personal compromise. For some, the choice is clear: maintain integrity and risk being left behind. For others, survival means adapting to circumstances, even if it involves actions they might not have considered in a different context. Nicki emphasized that understanding these dynamics is essential for anyone trying to make sense of celebrity behavior or industry scandals. Despite the chaos, there were moments of humanity. Nicki acknowledged that Meek Mill is talented, ambitious, and deeply committed to his craft. She also recognized that his choices, while controversial, were often influenced by forces beyond his control. This nuanced perspective challenges the public's tendency to judge based solely on appearances or rumors. The story also highlights the role of secrecy in maintaining control. Parties, private gatherings, and off-camera events were often designed to obscure the reality from the public. Those who attended were acutely aware that their actions could be scrutinized or exposed at any time, creating a climate of tension and caution. Nicki suggested that this environment contributed to decisions that might seem perplexing or extreme to outsiders. As the narrative unfolds, it becomes clear that this isn't just about individual behavior. It's about systemic patterns in the music industry: how power is wielded, how relationships are influenced by money and status, and how young artists navigate complex social and professional dynamics. Nicki's accounts provide insight into these patterns, offering a glimpse into the hidden mechanisms that shape careers and reputations. One of the most striking elements is the duality of public versus private life. Artists like Meek Mill are celebrated for their success, talent, and charisma, but the private pressures they face can be intense and even dangerous. Nicki's perspective underscores this contrast, revealing how appearances can be deceiving and how survival often requires navigating morally gray areas. The story also raises broader questions about loyalty, trust, and influence. How much of an artist's behavior is a result of personal choice, and how much is shaped by the environment they operate in? Nicki's experiences suggest that understanding this distinction is key to interpreting events, rumors, and controversies in the industry. By sharing these accounts, Nicki Minaj positions herself not just as an observer, but as a witness to a system that demands vigilance, strategy, and resilience. Her willingness to speak openly about these experiences challenges the narrative that only talent and hard work determine success. It highlights the importance of awareness, preparation, and the ability to navigate complex social dynamics in a high-stakes environment. Concludes by reinforcing the stakes. Fame, fortune, and influence in the music industry come with hidden costs. The choices artists make, the pressures they face, and the networks they engage with shape not only their careers, but also their personal lives. Nicki's insights provide a rare glimpse into this world, illustrating how ambition, loyalty, and survival intersect in ways the public rarely sees. As the story moves forward into the next phase, the focus will shift even deeper into the personal conflicts, intense pressures, and life-altering decisions that define the hidden world of these artists. It's a story of power, consequence, and the complex human dynamics that unfold behind the scenes, where every choice carries weight and nothing is ever truly private. As the story reaches its next chapter, the stakes rise even higher. The pressures, secrets, and complex relationships that have shaped Nicki Minaj and Meek Mill's paths come into sharper focus. What began as the rise of a powerful couple has transformed into a tangled web of survival, loyalty, and difficult choices. Nicki's perspective provides unique insight into the dynamics of the music industry, an environment where influence often outweighs talent and where personal decisions are constantly scrutinized. She shared that Meek Mill, despite his rising fame, was increasingly caught between ambition and the demands of those around him. Powerful figures often created situations where his actions were closely monitored, expectations were high, and the consequences of refusal were severe. Private parties and gatherings, which seemed glamorous from the outside, often functioned as tests. Attendees were observed, judged, and sometimes manipulated. According to Nicki, these events weren't just about socializing, they were exercises in control. Meek Mill, like many others, was navigating these pressures while also trying to maintain his image as a successful and independent artist. Nicki recounted moments where she witnessed Meek being influenced by people who held both financial and personal power over him. These influences shaped not only his decisions, but also his interactions with women, peers, and even fans. While some perceived his behavior as a personal choice, Nicki emphasized that it was often the product of the environment he was immersed in, a world where compliance and adaptation were survival tools. One of the most striking revelations Nicki shared involved her knowledge of specific parties that tested boundaries. She described how wealthy and influential guests sometimes orchestrated scenarios that pushed artists beyond their comfort zones. Observing these events firsthand left a deep impression on her, highlighting the difference between public perception and private reality. Meek's choices during this time reflected a complex interplay between personal ambition, loyalty, and the pressures imposed by the elite circles he was entering. Nicki noted that while some of his actions might appear questionable, they were part of a broader pattern of survival in an industry where every decision could affect future opportunities. The narrative also explores the personal fallout from these experiences. Nicki spoke candidly about the emotional and psychological toll that these pressures took on her and those around her. Witnessing manipulation, deceit, and morally gray situations forced her to remain vigilant, to question motives, and to carefully navigate her relationships. These experiences strengthened her resolve to protect herself while also exposing injustices she observed. At the center of the story is the idea of agency. Nicki Minaj has always been a figure who speaks boldly, challenges authority, and refuses to be silenced. By sharing her experiences, she emphasizes the importance of understanding power structures and making informed choices. For Meek Mill, the pressures were different but no less intense. His environment required constant negotiation, awareness, and compromise, sometimes at the expense of personal values. The story also highlights the duality of fame. The public sees success, accolades, and glamorous moments, but the private reality can be far more complicated. Nicki's accounts illustrate this contrast, showing that influence, wealth, and connections often come with hidden demands, ethical dilemmas, and psychological strain. For artists, balancing public persona with private challenges becomes a daily struggle. Nicki further explained that the rumors circulating online, while often sensationalized, frequently had kernels of truth that reflected deeper issues within the industry. Videos of Meek Mill at high-profile gatherings, for example, were interpreted in multiple ways by the public. Nicki's insight adds context, suggesting that appearances rarely tell the whole story. Understanding the pressures, manipulation, and power dynamics is crucial to interpreting these moments accurately. Another critical point she raised involves trust and loyalty. In an industry where alliances can shift quickly, even close relationships are tested. Nicki's observations about Meek's experiences reveal how complex loyalty can become when personal, professional, and financial interests intersect. Artists must navigate these shifting dynamics carefully, balancing ambition with personal ethics. The narrative takes a darker turn as Nicki details situations involving coercion and manipulation at private events. While she did not shy away from difficult truths, she also emphasized personal responsibility. Meek Mill, according to her, was not simply a passive participant. He made choices within the constraints of his environment. These choices had consequences, shaping his reputation, relationships, and career trajectory. Part of Nicki's message is about awareness. The entertainment world operates on layers of influence and hidden expectations. Understanding the environment, the players, and the unspoken rules can mean the difference between survival and being sidelined. For Meek, navigating this environment required balancing ambition with caution, public perception with private reality. Nicki also reflected on the broader implications for other artists. The experiences she shared, while personal, illustrate systemic patterns. Young artists entering the industry often face situations that test their values, loyalty, and decision-making skills. By speaking openly, Nicki seeks to provide insight into these dynamics, offering both warnings and lessons for those who follow. Despite the tension and drama, there were moments of resilience. Nicki's ability to observe, analyze, and adapt allowed her to navigate the industry on her own terms. Similarly, Meek Mill's actions, while controversial, reflect the difficult choices faced by those immersed in high-stakes environments? Both artists exemplify the intersection of talent, ambition, and survival in a world where appearances can be deceiving. The story also underscores the role of secrecy and privacy. Much of what happens in these circles is intentionally hidden, controlled, or misrepresented. Nicki's accounts reveal how important discretion is, how rumors can distort reality, and how perception often differs from truth. For fans and outsiders, understanding these hidden layers provides a more nuanced perspective on celebrity behavior. By the end of Part 3, the narrative paints a full picture of the hidden pressures that shape artists' lives. Fame, power, and influence bring rewards, but also significant risks. Decisions made behind closed doors can have lasting impacts, shaping both public perception and personal outcomes. Nicki Minaj's observations provide a rare glimpse into these hidden mechanisms, revealing a world where loyalty, survival, and strategy are as important as talent. Ultimately, this chapter emphasizes the complexity of human behavior under pressure. Artists like Meek Mill are not simply products of their choices. They are shaped by environments, networks, and expectations. Nicki Minaj's perspective adds depth to this understanding, showing how personal experience intersects with systemic pressures to create outcomes that are often misunderstood by the public. The stage for the story's conclusion. It's a story of ambition, challenge, and resilience, highlighting the intricate balance between public image and private reality. By exploring the hidden dynamics of the music industry, the story encourages viewers to consider the unseen forces shaping the lives and careers of their favorite artists. And that's where we leave this story. For now, the world behind fame, fortune, and music is far more complicated than most of us imagine. From private parties to industry pressures, loyalty tests, and hidden agendas, the lives of artists like Nicki Minaj and Meek Mill are filled with choices that most fans never see. What happens behind closed doors often shapes what we see on stage, in music, and across social media. Now it's your turn to weigh in. What do you think about the challenges these artists face? Were their choices driven by ambition, survival, or something else entirely? Could you handle the pressures of an industry where fame and power often come with hidden costs? If this story gave you a new perspective, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated on more deep dives into the untold stories of the music world. Remember, every story has more than one side, and sometimes the truth is hidden just beneath the surface. Stay curious, stay aware, and keep exploring with us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.